Welcome. You're on the Fringe show. I'm your host, Tatiana Zalan, and I go live on Fridays at 2 p.m. Dubai time. The Fringe is about our future, technology, art, and society. I help you to navigate the rapidly changing world so that you too can take advantage of the new opportunities in this new digital world that's upon us. It's episode 69. Yesterday morning, which was 30th of March, I woke up to the news that a group of tech leaders, scientists, and entrepreneurs signed an open letter warning humanity of the dangers of AI and advocating for a pause on all further artificial intelligence developments. And it looks like we're really at a pivotal juncture in our evolution. Should we proceed with AI or put brakes on scientific progress? So I decided to do this show around this topic. A couple of reflections from other people, but also my own thoughts. Disclaimer, usual disclaimer, the views are my own and do not represent the views of organizations or employees I'm associated with. The Fringe show is for educational purposes only. But before we go on, I just would like maybe to clarify a couple of differences that get confused all the time, and that's the differences between human intelligence and artificial intelligence. And this particular idea is coming from Geoffrey Hilton, who can be considered the father of AI and particularly machine learning. He was one of the first to introduce machine learning many decades ago and do research in it. ChatGPT and the like, according to Geoffrey Hilton, that they have an intelligence which is fundamentally different from the intelligence of Homo sapiens. There is a divergence between how the brain actually works and how artificial neural networks work. The intelligence of Homo sapiens has evolved along the biological path, which means all human beings are different. All human brains are different. So we need to use natural language to communicate. And this communication involves very low watt transmission, in fact, 30 watt transmission of symbols, which code a very limited number of data compared to the machines. The basis of ChatGPT intellect is an AI agent. It's a computer version of neural networks where we have identical models running on different computers, which can share the connection strengths and so billions of numbers. So we humans are generally very bad at communicating compared with current computer models. And all models are currently clones of the same model running on different computers, and they can see huge amounts of data. But this only works in digital computers, and they need to be able to do identical things. So according to Geoffrey Hilton, all AI models are like idiot savants. They know a lot more than average person, but they're not very good at reasoning. Homo sapiens, us, is better at reasoning. We have to extract our knowledge from much less data. ChatGPT, for example, doesn't understand anything about truth. And by the way, this point about truth comes up in the open letter. So it's trained on a lot of inconsistent data because people have different opinions, and yet AI models need to have a blend of opinions, so kind of an average of all these opinions. It's very different from a person who wants to have a consistent view of the world, particularly if you want to act upon this understanding of the world. Well, then you really need to have a consistent worldview. We will probably move towards systems that can understand different worldviews. That might happen in future with artificial intelligence as well. If there's one worldview, then there's one answer. If there's another, then the answer will be quite different. But the problem is that for many aspects of our lives, there is truth. There is one answer. Yes, I know relativism has become very popular in our society, in our ideology. But for some questions, there are really only one truthful answer. We don't know how to deal with this, and OpenAI or Microsoft don't know how to deal with this either. And that represents a huge governance challenge. Who decides what truth is? You don't want a for-profit company to do that. Or do you want your government to decide which is truthful or not? Well, we've seen attempts for some governments to do just that during the pandemic. So it seems to me that we're in the fork in the road. Force the AI development on the basis of large language models to use to solve problems facing humanity. That's one way. Or we can put a brake and address the unknown and very well understood risks of AI. So both unknown and well understood, and the potential for AI singularity in the near future. And that could have catastrophic consequences. It's very clear that China, which is the runner-up in all this AI arms race, has taken the first route. They want to become the AI leader, and there's only one view, which is centrally imposed, so they don't have any issues with them coming to a consensus what China needs to do. And then there is the US and generally the Western world that may be taking the second route, pause and reflect. Let me deal with China very quickly. China will accelerate the use of artificial intelligence in science and technology research. Just recently, the Ministry of Science and Technology has announced that Beijing is going to direct even more resources to emerging technologies and intensifying competition with the United States. This plan is dubbed Artificial Intelligence for Science because they believe that AI technology has shown powerful capabilities beyond traditional methods of mathematics or physics in many scientific research fields. AI is identified as a key industry in China's Made in China 2025 industrial plan, in which it is stated that China's goal is to become a global leader in the field by 2030. So China, today, the world's second largest economy, second contender in the race for AI, has an edge in terms of academic papers, patents, and cross-border and global AI funding. I think it's also important to note that there's just recently Professor Kai-Fu Lee, Dr. Kai-Fu Lee, who is a very well-known AI expert, one of the maybe most well-known in the world. He's also chairman and CEO of Innovation Ventures. He's personally leading a new venture, building a new initiative called Project AI 2.0. He's committed to creating a new platform for AI, what he calls AI 2.0, a global company with AI-first productivity applications. And he says that Project AI 2.0 is far more than the Chinese version of ChatGPT. He thinks that AI 2.0 is just more than a smart chatting platform or an app for graphic creation. And even MS Copilot and the applications we're seeing today are just a drop in the bucket relative to what AI 2.0 can do. It's an ecosystem for AI-powered productivity tools. So AI-first platform, and they don't actually have the ambitions to develop artificial general intelligence. It's this AI-powered productivity tools, AI-first platforms. So it's a race now how to build platforms rather than just apps. And now we come to this famous open letter, which is available in the public domain. It's not very long, but of course I won't read out all of it, but I would like to highlight a few important points in my view. So they start an open letter with AI systems with human competitive intelligence can pose profound risks to society and humanity, as shown by extensive research and acknowledged by top AI labs. Advanced AI could represent a profound change in the history of life on Earth and should be planned for and managed with commensurate care and resources. Unfortunately, they state further, this level of planning management is not happening, even though recent months have seen AI labs locked in and out of control race to develop and deploy even more powerful digital minds that no one, even their creators, can understand, predict, or reliably control. And then they pose a number of questions. Should we, humans, let machines flood our information channels with propaganda and untruths? Should we automate away all the jobs, including the fulfilling ones? Should we develop non-human minds and that might eventually outnumber, outsmart, obsolete, and replace us? Should we risk a loss of control of our civilization? Such decisions, they state, must not be delegated to unelected tech leaders. And of course, many people would agree it's a reasonable statement. Powerful AI systems, they say, should be developed only once we are confident that their effects will be positive and their risks will be manageable. Therefore, what they're calling is that all AI labs to immediately pause for at least 6 months the training of all AI systems more powerful than GPT-4. This pause will be public and verifiable and will include all key actors. If such a pause cannot be enacted quickly, that's a very interesting point. Governments should step in and institute a moratorium. And then they say that this does not mean that a general pause on all AI developments, merely stepping back from the dangerous race to ever larger, unpredictable black box models with emergent capabilities. In parallel, they suggest AI developers must work with policymakers to dramatically accelerate development of robust governance systems and so on and so forth. And if you look at the signatories, and there are more than 1,100 of them already, maybe more by that time, it's like the list of who's who in the tech world, in the corporate world as well. The famous professors, Elon Musk has signed it, Steve Wozniak, Yuval Noah Harari, Andrew Yang, a politician. There are a few people from DeepMind, and so on and so forth. So what does it mean, and what were the reactions to this open letter? Very diverse. Some people were highly critical, saying, well, if we have fear of ChatGPT, shouldn't then we stop maybe Facebook over privacy concerns, or Tesla self-driving cars? Maybe we need to stop them over driver safety concerns. There were also more cynical interpretations saying, well, it's probably because this all AI anxiety, so to speak, is because Elon Musk is behind on developing their own AI, lagging far behind the market leaders. So it's about their own business rather than anything else. Professor LeCun, who is professor at New York University and a chief scientist, chief expert in AI at Meta, is very sarcastic. He's saying, well, okay, let's imagine the year is 1414. The Catholic Church has called for a 6 months moratorium on the use of the printing press. Imagine what could happen if commoners all of a sudden get access to all these books. They could read the Bible for themselves and society would be destroyed. Society was destroyed, but for the better. Printed books enabled the Protestant movement and 200 years of religious conflicts in Europe. Yes, but printed books also enabled the Enlightenment, literacy, education, science, philosophy, and democracy. Andrew Ng, who is also a very prominent AI expert, was very, GPT-4. He's seeing a lot of many new applications in education, healthcare, food, and these advancements can help many people, and improving GPT-4 will help surely, but let's balance the huge value that artificial intelligence is creating for us versus realistic risks. And then he correctly says that there is no realistic way to implement a moratorium and stop all of a sudden all teams around the world from scaling up LLMs unless governments step in. And having governments pause emerging technologies they don't understand is anti-competitive, sets a terrible precedent, and is awful innovation policy. So 6 months moratorium, according to him, is not a practical proposal. If we do want to advance AI safety, we can, but then there need to be regulations around transparency transparency and auditing, and they have to be more practical, and that will make a big difference. And let's also invest more in safety while we advance the technology, but we shouldn't be stifling the technological progress. David Deutsch is another famous personality. He's science thought leader, you could say, Professor Deutsch. He's an expert in a way on artificial intelligence as well, quantum physicist, and the author of a brilliant book, The Beginning of Infinity, where he speaks at large on artificial intelligence. So he's responding in particular to Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI and sort of one of the authors of ChatGPT. According to Sam Altman, we need three things for a very good AGI future: the technical ability to align a superintelligence. Secondly, we need sufficient coordination among most of the leading AGI efforts. And thirdly, we need an effective global regulatory framework, including democratic governance. David Deutsch said that, well, if we're talking about governments, that means world government, which means destroying the best existing systems of governance instead of improving them. Literally, that's the worst thing we could do. And fortunately, he believes that there's no way of doing it. He personally has not signed the open letter, and overall he said that it reads to him like we shouldn't make anything whose effects we can't prophesy. So let's begin by giving the world's totalitarian governments and organized criminals a chance to catch up. Incidentally, he says that this open letter confuses AI with AGI. When I read that, these quotes and this kind of thinking and his reaction to the open letter, it reminded me something else. And this is what I want to share with you as well. It reminded me the paper by Nick Bostrom, and that's also a presentation by him, The Vulnerable Work Hypothesis. This paper is in the public domain. You can very easily find. Nick Bostrom, Professor Bostrom, is an expert on global risks and AI, in particular AI. The bad news, Nick Bostrom says, is that humanity will one day pull out the black ball. For Nick Bostrom, the black ball is just a metaphor for a global existential risk. The good news, he says, is that it doesn't imply that the civilization must be devastated. We can, in his words, achieve what he calls stabilization and avoid this devastating scenario if we can achieve the stabilization by one of those means. And he cites four means by which we can do it. First, resist technological development, limited curtailment of inventive activities, and targeted regress, right? So we see again this thread of slowing down technological development. Number two, ensure that there doesn't exist a large population of actors representing a wide and recognizable distribution of motives. In other words, people who have very bad motives, and what they can do with technology. Number three is establishing extremely effective preventive policing. And number four, establishing effective global governance. So again, we see this idea of policing and government. And he said, yes, indeed, in these first two, maybe restricting technological development and ensuring that we monitor each and every person on the planet, probably that won't work. But establishing global governments and establishing all this policing will work. So these are governance issues, according to him. And I just want to conclude with this. We're definitely having an AI arms race. China's number 2 in the arms race, and it's powering ahead. It's not going to stop. The US is the leader, and it wants to pause technological progress. How feasible it is, we don't know, but let's assume it is feasible. And yet there are a number of reasonable people like Kai-Fu Lee, Andrew Ng, and David Deutsch, and they're cautiously optimistic about the future. Given these rather two different paths, I doubt that there will be any sort of global consensus or, let's say, Geneva Convention that we can reach on this topic. And I'll also have a sense of deja vu with the slowdown of the technological progress. We had this situation in the 60s and 70s when countries, the large superpowers, the US and the USSR at the time, they agreed to do that bilaterally. Only this time it's different. One of the superpowers, which is China, is not playing ball. And I have also a very bad feeling that we are watching some kind of a theater. I have no doubt that some people's motivations in signing this letter are very sincere. Others, I doubt it, others less so. And time will tell us who are behind the actors on that particular stage. Well, anyway, I think you found this somewhat useful, and I will see you soon on Fridays at 2 p.m. Dubai time. All the best in the meantime.